Janika, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm stoked to be here and chat with you, Jess.
Yes, me too. So before we go into all the juicy stuff, can you please tell everyone who you are, what you do, and just a little snippet into how you got here?
Yeah. Isn't that a fun question when we're trying to describe all of the weird and kooky shit that we do? It's like,
I know.
where am I going to start? So I would say I would describe myself as a soul who, like many of us, is on a journey of remembering and then reclaiming who I am. And I would describe myself at the moment as an author and a psychic guide, an energy healer, and I also dabble in hypnotherapy, which is very fun. And I'll be actually graduating as a clinical hypnotherapist at the end of the year, which is awesome. But I help people through all of those things that I do to help people live and share the story that they're born to tell. And I do this through helping them with their spiritual connection and then also their authentic expression. And so for me, connecting to that higher self and expressing that into the world, however people do that and decide to do that, or it needs to be, is how you live out the story that you're born to tell and how we achieve success with our soul contracts and live in alignment with our purposes and things like that. So I combine the mind using hypnotherapy and the subconscious, and then the body using energy healing modalities, and then the spirit with my own ability, and kind of mesh it all into one to help people wherever they land. And then I also have a podcast called the Just You podcast with Janika, and I interview other storytellers there. And I was just literally thinking like, oh my gosh, I have to pitch to Jess to see if she'll come on my podcast because I love, any storytellers. So I've had astrologers on there because they share stories about the stars. I've had authors, just anyone really that has a cool story. So that's been an exciting piece of the journey. But really, when I'm not doing all of that, what I love doing is just spending time with my family. So I'm really laid back. I live in Queensland. I'm wearing a boob tube top. I look like I'm not even wearing clothes right now in the video. I just thought, oh, I should clarify. I am wearing a shirt. Yeah, and I'm just chill with my family. I've got a kid who's 5, a kid who's turning 4, my husband, and yeah, we've got a crazy life at the moment with them being those ages. So you'll probably hear one of them bust through the doors in about 5 minutes. But I just roll with it. And then my husband is Canadian and we had our children in Canada and we've come back to Australia. So just got people I love all around the world. And also, when I'm not with family and friends, then I'm watching Bravo shows. So I saw Jess when
Oh,
you
yeah.
started posting about that. I thought we're going to connect. Love a good
Obsessed.
Tarashi reality television show. I'm in. I'm your
Yes.
girl. And then, yeah, just looking for fairies in the bush. So it goes from one spectrum way to the other with me. And yeah, I guess when I was growing up, I was always connected to spirit. And back then, I didn't think of it as separate. And I would sense energy, I would see auras, and it was just natural for me to live in a way where I was responding to my intuitive self. And then when I got to about age 9, we moved into this house that had spirit manifesting big time. So I was engaging with this male spirit that was coming into the house. He was present in the hallway most of the time and he would come and form and he had a message to deliver to me. But I think at that point, and I'd be curious just to ask you if you had a similar sort of journey, because I at that point had watched, some movies. I'd maybe dabbled in society and culture. I'd also gone to Catholic school, so a lot of that conditioning was being put into me that anything that you saw that wasn't in heaven was something bad that you shouldn't interact with, and it started to scare me. And so when the spirit of this male would manifest and try and communicate with me, even though I had been doing that during my childhood with my imaginary friends and the angels that I would communicate with, for some reason with him, I just got really scared.
Mm.
And the more he started to manifest, the more I would be frightened. And I just shut it off. I think that was my point where I just went, I don't want to see this anymore. no more, I'm terrified. And actually, my mum ended up seeing that spirit in that same house, and we moved out like 2 weeks later because she absolutely pooed her pants.
No way. Oh my
Yeah, because
gosh.
I kept saying to my mum, Mum, there's a man in the hallway. There's a man. And I'd come running to her, crying, scared, like he's in the hallway again and he's trying to communicate with me. And I'd have night terrors and sweats. And yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to assist him because I was 9 and I,
Yeah.
didn't have the knowing that I had now. If I could go back, I would help him. But yeah, it was interesting. I turned it off and I actually became quite skeptic. I decided at that point in my teenage years, like, I, I don't align with this religion. I don't align with this organized religion aspect. I was questioning everything that the teachers were giving me in religion studies because I'm like, well, okay, that all makes sense and sounds lovely, but why am I seeing spirit? Like, what is that? What is that I'm sensing, and how do I know these things if it's just so black and white?
Mm.
So I left it completely, and then I ended up just sort of becoming skeptical and almost in this really snooty way. And I've shared about this on my own podcast. It almost became like I would make fun of people who had faith. I would think, how could you be so silly to believe in something that you can't see? Like, did you not finish school? Do you not understand science? Like, we can't see it. It's not real. And so, yeah, I definitely think through those years, I fell into stories that maybe were out of alignment with who I was and my truest expression, and continued down some paths that maybe looking back, I'm like, oh, well, no wonder I ended up in a relationship like that, or I had that experience because I was not expressing authentically with who I was. And eventually, though, in my late 20s, spirit started coming back. So after it being dormant for so long and I had zero connection, bit by bit, I started to have a lot of synchronicities start to ramp up. I started to go through my Saturn return. I was just experiencing things that I thought, oh, that's strange. And then also having memories of relevant pieces from when I was young that were coming up again. So, one example is I had this angel deck that I was drawn to in a metaphysical shop. Don't even know why I was in there because I probably would have made fun of the people walking in there. But I went in there and I saw these angel cards and I went, oh, I need those. I really need those. Bought them, got them home, had no idea how to use them. And I was like, there's something relevant here for me. Anyway, it turns out that eventually when I moved back to Australia, and I was going through my old things, I had bought that same Oracle deck when I was about 13 years old, the
Oh my
exact same
God.
one. Yeah, the Tony Angel cards. And
Wow.
yeah, so I started to remember. I was going through this sense of remember when you used to go to the crystal shops when you were, 6 years old at Mooloolaba on vacation and you'd buy amethyst trees. Like, why on earth did you like that as a child? And I remember when you used to talk to the fairies and the angels and your imaginary friends. And it started coming back as memories of like dreams that I had had that had happened and people that I had interacted with where what I had said had eventuated. And so it was a slow burn of remembering. And then it started to ramp up as I got pregnant with my son. So at this point, I'd already had my daughter, had a great pregnancy, a great birth, positive experience, and got pregnant with my son. And I just knew something was different. I was sensing like something is going to happen to me where my life's going to be changed forever. And I thought, well, I'm becoming a mum of two. I'm going to have no time.
Yeah.
Like, it's about to get real. Um, and yeah, but then it was like this deep knowing that no, 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 this is like an initiation. It's something big. I was just starting to see the numbers all of the time, 333. All of the animals were starting to communicate with me again. And I thought I was going insane. I was like, I must just have hormones raging through my body. How am I understanding what this animal is saying to me right now? It's just, yeah, very strange. Anyway, I flash forward to this dream that I had right before the birth. So I started sensing spirit by the bed at night, and I would be waking up 333 every night and like a team of spirit around the bed trying to tell me something, but I couldn't. My frequency at that point was pretty low, and like I just couldn't hear it, and I didn't know what it was, but I wasn't scared of it. And I actually thought it was my nan. So my nan and I were really close, and she passed away. And she was, whenever I would think, oh, I'm communicating with my angel, I would think of Nan.
Mm.
Um, and I started to smell roses when she was around, and she was communicating with me more. So I thought, oh, great, got my nan as my guide. I'm good to go. The pregnancy's going to be amazing. Births will be awesome. And then I guess I had this dream that really changed everything for me. Where, and you know, when you have those dreams where you know you're talking to spirit, it's not just a dream in
Mm.
your head.
Definitely.
And it was Nan, and she's there and she's facing away from me. And I tap her on the shoulder and she turns around. And I'm just like, oh, Nan, so good to see you. Is that you that's sending me all these messages? Is that you waking me up at 3 every night? Like, can you give it a rest? I got to sleep.
Yeah.
And she turns around and she goes, oh, sweetie. And she smiles at me and she's like, it's all of us. It's all of us. And there's so many of us. And at that point, I understood that I had all of these guides and all of these angels and all of these beings that are working with me and through me and are going to be with me for this next phase. So I knew shit was going to get real, but I couldn't really communicate that to anyone.
Mm.
Anyway, so I had this birth and I kept thinking in my head, something's going to happen. And everyone thought I was being overreacting because I had had a great first birth. And anyway, what ended up eventuating was that I had a near death experience giving birth to my son. And I lost 3 liters out of the 5 liters of blood that you have in your whole body. And that's like a critical mass. And so I had this moment where it was touch and go for both me and my son. And when I came out of it, I just had this whole veil just absolutely taken off of me and a download that was really, really profound.
Wow. Oh my gosh. How did that unfold for you with your like near death experience? Were there complications in your pregnancy? Was it like a quick thing? Did you see anything when you sort of like were out of it, or what happened?
Yeah. So I guess, so I was hemorrhaging. I was going to give birth vaginally and then something happened and he needed to come out as a C-section. And I was bawling my eyes out. And even my husband thought that that was strange because we had discussed whatever we need to do to get the baby here safe, we don't care. And I was just bawling and I was so afraid. And I was like, something's going to happen. I know it. So what had happened was when I was on the table, and I wish I had a memory of like when I went through to the other side of seeing the light beings and having the light. But the truthful answer is I actually didn't. It was like I was on, then it was off, and then I came back online again. And in that section, I got the downloads. But what I'm discovering through hypnosis is that my subconscious has remembered a lot of the memories of what happened
Mm.
on the other side. So as I continue to develop that and dive deeper into that, I'm like, wow, the subconscious really does remember everything for us, even if we weren't there. So in
Yeah.
my physical state, what had happened was lying on the table and I knew something was wrong because I had this, I'm going to butcher this word, anesthesiologist. Oh, I got it right.
Yeah, I reckon you did.
I reckon we did it. Yeah, I got that. So I had him put the epidural in me. And at that point, you're so stoked to see them because you're in so much pain. You're like, yep, put that needle in my back. Thank you. And I wanted to connect with him. This is when I was going to be vaginally giving my baby over. And he was very stoic. He was super, I could not get him to be warm with me or engage with me. He was very matter of fact. He was busy, right? He had shit to do. So I remember him being very stoic and not very good bedside manner. And then when I flashed forward to us in the C-section room and I'm lying on the table and he's having to up my doses and be the person to administer everything, he was again very stoic, very stern. But then the moment it changed, I remember him in my ear. So obviously my husband's on one side. I've got this guy, this random, on the other side.
Mm.
And he changed. His tone changed. His body changed with me. And it became like care. Like he cared. He was so soft and nurturing. And he was in my ear and he's saying, stay with us, sweetie. Stay with us, sweetie. You're okay. Stay with me. And I can hear him. And I'm like, oh, something's wrong. And
Yeah.
then I'm throwing up and like sick and then I'm seeing the nurses and the doctor panic. And I'm not even looking at Ben actually. I cannot even remember his face in this moment. So I'm seeing them panic. And what Ben's told me is that at that point, the doctor who's operating is like, I need someone else. I need someone else from a different floor. Get me another doctor now. So everybody's running out, and at that, I've lost consciousness. And then when I've come back, what I'm remembering is that I'm being wheeled in to meet my baby. I've just completely lost track of time. And I'm sitting there instead of thinking, I can't wait to meet my baby. How are you, Ben? How are we? We're parents of two. We did it. I'm sitting there like an absolute nut job thinking, your story is the most important thing that you have in your life. You have to make sure that you live in alignment with your soul contracts. You have to talk to people about how important it is to express from their heart, to connect to what's their highest timeline. So I'm downloading all of this stuff that's not even in my voice. It's not even me. Um, and I'm thinking that's really strange. And so
Wow.
yeah, eventually, I met my baby boy. He's perfectly healthy. He's an absolute rat bag now at 4 years old. We love him to death. But he gave me the gift of opening up this door, and since then it only expanded. So I'm 4 years into that journey now, and I do this full time. And yeah, it's what I
Oh
love.
my gosh. Wow. I bet you had have wished that that anesthesiologist kept very like, stoic the whole time. That might be a good sign, guys. So if your doctors have no personality and they're not doing anything and they don't want to talk to you, you're all good, mate.
You're fine. As soon as he starts whispering, "You're okay, sweetie, hang on,"
You're
then
like,
you're like,
fuck,
"Oh,
I'm
what's going
fucked.
on?" Yeah, yeah. And I
That's so
think
funny.
it
Oh my
was
gosh.
just, it was such, I laugh about it now, and I have the hindsight now to be like, thank you, my son, for gifting me that.
Yeah.
But birth can be really freaking traumatic. And
Mm,
you can have one that goes really smoothly and one that kicks your ass. And
yeah.
my births as well, karmically, like in other lives, have also been challenging.
Yeah,
So,
right.
yeah, I had a lot of past life pieces that I was also picking up on through that I've now understood as well. And yeah, specifically the soul of my son has assisted me with that as well. So he's teaching me. So yeah, I think if anyone's listening and they're thinking, oh my gosh, birth sounds really scary, or I resonate. I also had a terrible birth and it was
Mm,
traumatic, then I feel you, because it can be really scary, but it's
mm.
it's something that many of us have gone through.
Definitely. And I'm so fascinated to hear your thoughts on soul contracts and agreements and what we're here to do and how we can work with them, how we even know we're in a soul contract. Can you just give us that download of what is this and how do we know and how do we do?
Yes, I this is my favorite topic to talk about. I could talk
I
to you all
love
day
that.
about this. So, the soul contract, and most of your listeners are probably aware, they've probably heard of a soul contract. And then there might be some listeners listening thinking, I don't even know what she's talking about. What is this? So, I'll start at the beginning. So, the soul contracts, and it's got an S at the end of that. There's a couple, there's a few. Most of us have more than one. So, soul contracts are agreements that are made by the soul before birth. So, before we come here, we work in alignment with, and I see them personally as the council of elders, but these really wise beings is what we can call them. So these really wise beings that have an understanding of not only our journey through our karmic lineages, but also the world collectively, and what we need to learn as a soul as we're ascending as a collective. So these soul contracts are these agreements where we decide in co-authorship, I suppose, the lessons or the challenges or the assignments or the experiences that we're going to go through in this lifetime. And so I see it as we have a main, usually one, maybe more, for some people, a main soul contract with ourselves. And then we also have others that are threaded with other souls in our soul groups. So I like to say that at the start, because people can get confused and think, well, is it my life purpose or is it something that I have with my brother? Like, what is that? So it's both. You'll have one that's a soul contract, an agreement that your soul wants to experience in this life. And then you'll also have soul contracts with many. So these contracts are formed with other souls to also help them with their growth and evolution too. I see it almost like a web where we're just all tied together. And the purpose of it is that we're here on earth. We've chosen to come here at this particular time, this particular place, to learn a specific lesson or heal an old wound or create an opportunity for growth that can be used in our ascension journey as each of us individually are ascending, but also when each of us ascends, the collective ascends. And so they're not always these conscious agreements that we're aware of in day-to-day life. A lot of the time most of us experience spiritual amnesia is what I like to call it. So we just completely forget what the heck we're doing here. And, there are those couple of people where it is part of their story to remember since birth. So I know you and I have both been on Nicole Bigley's podcast, Psychic Story, and she's been aware that she's connected her whole life. But then for many, it is like just a sense of remembering. So ultimately, these contracts just help us all evolve and transcend any karmic cycles, any things that we maybe experienced in the past life or iteration of past lives. And they actually show it to me now as like it's not necessarily always past. Sometimes it's just time is irrelevant to them. So it could be multiple incarnations going on at once, but we're transmuting karma through those. And then also I'll say some of our soul contracts, they suck. Like they're not positive to go through as a human. They can be really challenging.
Yeah.
I've seen soul contracts around forgiveness and empathy and learning those things when maybe someone's experienced something that was incredibly traumatic or hurtful or painful, and they've had to tap into that inner resource of forgiveness as part of their contract. So sometimes the contracts are really difficult, and I find those souls that have those, they're some strong ass souls. They pick the things that really push them for their growth. And then sometimes the souls will come into earth to rest. Perhaps in the previous life, they've had an absolute shocker. And together with the Council of Elders, they've decided, okay, in this life, I'm going to have a really cushy life. I want to live in the Bahamas. I want to be a fisherman. I want to experience love and joy as my assignment and my contract. So that's how I perceive it. And I think to answer your question there about how do we know if we're in soul contracts? Well, I think that if you start to notice repeating patterns, or in my language, I use stories like chapters. So if you're noticing repeating stories, so your relationships, your challenges, and you think, I've dated the same guy for like 4 years and I've dated 4 different guys, but it seems like it's the same guy. That might be something that feels like, okay, something here I'm supposed to learn. Is it self-love? Is it self-worth? What is this contract that I'm supposed to learn here? And any challenges or anything fated that feels like it's beyond our conscious control. So I always explain the way that I met my husband was something that was contracted. Like we were supposed to meet, and even though everything was kind of stacked up against us to not make it work, it was like it didn't matter. We were gonna make it work, and so I recognized that too when I look back, and I think, oh well, no wonder it felt so familiar. I felt like I knew you from 1,000 lifetimes, because it's very likely that we have been together over a period of lifetimes.
Yeah, I agree. Why didn't we choose the cushy life? What the fuck was wrong with us?
I ask myself that every day when I have to go and pay a bill or do, the human
Oh.
stuff. It's like, why didn't I incarnate as a billionaire on a yacht who donates to charity? Not this life.
Yes. What the hell is wrong with us? Oh my God. But, I think the same thing. Like, I've had such a challenging life with my family. I've basically cut out nearly everybody on both sides of my family. Like, who does that? But I just feel like that's been something that I've had to learn and I've had to do. I think if I kept living those cycles over and over again, where constantly put down, they make me feel terrible about myself. I'm always seeking validation. Like, it just felt like the never ending story of shit. And they keep knocking on the door and you keep having to ignore it. And it's the hardest thing to do, because I'm not a mean person. Like, I don't like conflict. I don't want to hurt people's feelings. Like, that's not who I'm about and what I'm about. So it feels almost foreign for me to be so harsh and so definitive, that I just felt like if I didn't do this now and I didn't cut those ties and be in my power, then I wasn't learning the lesson that I feel like I've been here to learn, which is about self worth. It is about independence and doing my thing and not being afraid to use my voice. Do you know how many times people say to me, "Oh, Jess, you'd probably be a lot more popular, or you'd probably get a lot more business, or, we could probably promote you more if you didn't always have your rude finger up saying fuck family." And I was like, well, you know what? I'm never going to not be that because I am so embedded in who I am and I'm so proud of who I've become in spite of that, that I would never now turn around and be like, oh, peace and love and
Yeah.
light. People would be like, Jess, what happened to you?
Yeah, it's inauthentic to you. And I think as well that I was just getting boundaries as a word that was flashing up about around my head around what you were just saying, like
Yes.
boundaries around like people, I need this is me, take it or leave it, and this is my boundary and don't you dare cross it. Like that's kind of what I was just receiving there. But
Yeah,
I
it's
I
true.
think that those really tricky relationships because like I know your story. I love this podcast. I love hearing from you and I think that certain relationships can trigger the most profound lessons as well where it's like no this is my time to be strong with my boundaries because I love myself and I'm
Mm.
worthy of what I'm asking for and it can be painful to go through that, but I think it's uplifting in the same sense. And then you bring closer to you what is for you, which it sounds like you being authentic on your journey, saying the F word and putting your finger up. That is resonating with every single person here that's listening to you speak. And they're here because you are authentically you, and they would feel it if you were not, right?
I agree. I feel like if I start to filter myself, then people would be like, she's changed. There's something wrong. Is she okay?
Yeah. And I don't really jive with it anymore, right? I want her to swear and be
No.
herself. And yeah.
Exactly. So that's even hard too, because even though I've come so far, you're still going to have people who test you or throw little spanners in the works. And I think it's the universe's way of going, are you sure you're doing the right thing? Are you sure you've learned the lesson? So you may find along the way that you get those little spanners that are thrown in just to make sure you're doing exactly what it is that you were here to do. And I am so to the point where I'm like, I'm not coming back again for some shit life. Like, if I'm coming back again, I'm coming with the billionaire shit. Like, I'm not learning all of these terrible lessons again. Like, that's why I'll cut out I've said it before, I'll cut out every Tom, Dick, and Harry just to make sure that I have done whatever it is I have to do here. And I honestly was thinking
Yeah.
before when you were talking about meeting your husband at the right time and it all felt, so soul connected. Like Jade and I met when I was like, well, we were in high school. So we knew each other since year seven. We got together in year 10 or 11 or something like that. But I'm like, I feel like I needed to have her throughout that whole journey to have one consistent good thing in my life and someone who believed in me to keep me going on the path that was so difficult. And I think sometimes we
Yeah.
think, oh my God, my life's so shit and I've had all these things happen to me. And I'm like, but they gave me the balance of the good and the bad. They're like, hey, you've got this rock. You've got this cool person that's with you every single step of the way when you're doing all this hard shit, but you have to do the hard shit. And we're going to give you that as like a reward for you doing the work. So you always have the balance of good and bad. I don't know what the fuck would happen if she hadn't have been here. I really don't.
No, yeah. Well, she was cosmically
Hmm.
contracted to be, and you
Yeah.
helped her, I'm sure, as well through that period. And it's
Mm.
interesting because I was just receiving that the duality is what helps us in Earth learn the
Mm.
skill or the lesson or whatever it is. And the word lesson and assignment can piss people off sometimes, where it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be in school. I'm exhausted just trying to pay my bills and live my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing that we've really have elected, or the things that we have elected to learn in this life, when we have duality on Earth, where there's so much shade and dark, and there's so much light, and it lives together, and it's woven in together, and then there's the grey.
Yeah.
But I think that when we have duality, we learn a lot faster than if we just remained in spirit, we remained in energy form, and we didn't
Hmm.
come here. It would take us a lot longer to learn. Whereas we're like, all right, fine, let's do it. Roll up my sleeves. I'm going in there. It's just this life. I'm going to
Yeah.
deal with all these things. I'm not going in without Jade, though. We're getting contracted together.
I feel like that's it. I'm like, hang on, if you're going to throw me down that road, like at least give me a freaking life jacket.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, she
Yeah.
can be my life jacket. That's her new name.
Yeah. Love it.
Oh, how funny. Okay, so do you think though that we can change our soul contracts, or like is everything, because people say, oh, is everything set in stone, like you're going to meet this person at this time and this is going to happen to you and this and this. And even when I'm doing psychic readings for people, like my one question readings, and I'll pick up on the energy that is current. I'll be like, okay, if things keep moving and shaking the way that I feel that they will, this is probably what's going to come to fruition. Then I get a message, months later and go, well, actually, this happened instead. Like something changed here. And I go, oh, well, that's a spanner in the works. I'm like, who would have seen that coming, kind of thing. And sometimes I feel like I'm not supposed to see that coming for you. You're meant to experience the shift in that moment anyway. And I feel like that's kind of when things shift in people's lives. You can't predict this shit. It just sort of happens. So do you think soul contracts change or assignments change, or what is
Yeah.
everything set in stone? What's your view?
Yeah, so my view, and I'll actually start by saying that when you mentioned that when you're tapping into the energy of now and then giving that information over, but sometimes they'll withhold things from you so that the person can experience the lesson themselves. I really resonate with you because the way that my guides will show it is they'll put a blind down on what I'm witnessing, like in my third eye. So if I'm viewing something for them, they'll shut that door, or it's more like a blind. They'll pull the blind down and I can't see. And I
Yeah.
think, oh, this is for you. You've actually got to be the one to say to me, I want to quit my job, Janika. Can you help me do it?
Mm.
So, yeah, it's funny. I also feel like sometimes we're not supposed to give the information. We're just supposed to like help them with their next step. But
Yeah.
with the can soul contracts change? I absolutely believe they can.
Mm.
I am a really big believer that we're the authors of our own story and that we're really stinking powerful, that like we are part of source and we are source. And so we're also in the 3D and in our physical body. So we can command energy, we can change what we need to. I don't think that soul contracts are rigid and fixed. I think of them more as blueprints where
Mm.
it's like, okay, the council of elders, this is what I'm thinking of doing, this is where I'm thinking of going, this is the soul groups I'm going to call in. Does it look good? Okay, great. This is my potential, this is my highest potential, and the
Mhm.
contracts are woven into that. But I think that they can grow and shift and change as we make different choices in our life. So even if they're just showing me like my own experience with my husband, I definitely had the choice to go to Canada and take
Mhm.
that chance with him, which I did. Or I could have stayed. Oh, listen to my voice. Isn't it funny that
Yeah.
expression comes up for me all the time? Um, or I could have stayed and kept living the life I was living in Bondi, which was freaking awesome. But I
Yeah.
had to take that risk. And so my soul contracts, the contract with Ben wouldn't have eventuated. I wouldn't have reached that particular timeline. I would have gone a different route. So they show it to me like a blueprint where it's like a choose your own adventure, basically. But if
Mm.
you're in alignment with your expression, which is why my throat is going crazy at the moment, if you're in alignment with your expression and you're always expressing what's from the heart and living your life in that way, then you're always going to be hitting the mark with choosing the highest potential, the highest timeline. And I think that we can influence our soul assignments, whether we accept them or if we resist them,
Mm.
and even like if we ignore them as well. If we're constantly ignoring it, it's going to keep bringing up until finally the universe goes, okay, we're
Yeah.
not going to learn that one this year. Let's give her a break.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I feel like things can shift and change. And yeah, I like that you sort of agree with me with the whole sometimes we can't see it all, because that would be basically just giving you all of the cards. It's like we can give you the next piece of the puzzle and that'll help you to make the right move in that moment. But sometimes the full picture doesn't quite show itself. I even had someone write to me yesterday, even this is why I thought of it. And she was like, oh, you told me that there'd be a possibility that I'd get back with this person. I just needed to reach out to them within a month. And she's like, oh, we ended up having an impromptu conversation and they've told me that now they've found somebody else.
Hey, it's me, Jade. I'm going to ask you, are you sick of your house smelling like shit? I'm sick of my house smelling like sage until Jess invented the lime glow candle. And now it doesn't have to smell like weed. Like, why does sage smell like pot? Go across to the lime glow and buy a candle and cleanse the crap out of your space.
Right. And this was months ago that I said, I think this could come to fruition for you. And I actually said, oh, that's a spanner in the works. I'm like, maybe your spirit team have decided you deserve better than that. Maybe that person changed and wasn't in your alignment anymore. And they're like, forget it. Like, we're not going to do that to you. If they had stayed quite the same, perhaps. But the energy I was feeling at the time, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I said something like, you know, this has potential to come back around, but I feel like you need to stay in your power and put one foot in front of the other and really focus on yourself right now and see what happens, kind of thing. But she was hanging on to it. And she's like, you know, we hang on to what psychics say to us. Like, we have hope that this is going to happen for us. And I'm like, look, you can't do that. Like, you can't hang on to every single word that somebody else says about you. Sure, you can get the gist of it and be like, okay, cool, I feel like I'm on the right track then. But you can't hold everything to exactly what is said, because if you lived your life based on what everybody else thinks about what you've got going on all of the time, you would never live in it. You'd never experience it yourself. Do you kind of agree with that? It's sort of like, I'm not trying to put myself out of business, but you know what I mean? It's like that we can give you the next pieces, but I can't give you the whole pie. And if things change, it changes for you.
Yeah, 100%. And what I was receiving is that when they have, like, if you think about all of the decisions that you make in your everyday life that can affect or shift your soul contracts and assignments, and my advice to that is just live in your heart and you'll reach your highest timeline. But if you think about you on your journey with that, they're also showing me, think about all of the other people, the many, many other people that you interact with that are also in charge of their own stories and are making conscious decisions every day to accept, reject, or ignore what's being brought to them. So yeah, you're so right. You know, even though she might have been on a particular flow, he or she or they might have chosen something completely different for them. And so it's changed. Now your guides are like, right, let's wrap this up. Let's send her something new. Let's do this. The universe is doing this. And you can't give away your power. Like, you are the author of your own story. So, okay, that didn't eventuate. That relationship's no longer. So what do I want to call in next? I'm open to this, universe. Like, I'm ready for that relationship. I want them to have these qualities, like, call it in, use your manifesting. Like, I really think that we are so powerful and we can't give our power away to anyone else. And we just use these services as almost a confirmation that what we're feeling and thinking intuitively, individually is correct for us. Like, I always find people will come and they'll get a reading and they go, well, that was everything that I was feeling and thinking and hoping would come through. And thank you. And I'm like, babe, you know yourself and your story better than anyone else. You just have to trust yourself. And if you need someone to help you get to that point of trust, then there's people like yourself and me that can assist you. But yeah, you're the author of your own story. So be powerful. You know?
Yeah, it's so true. And even like I was talking to some of my friends who live in the UK the other day, and I had done a reading for them like a year ago, I think, and they were like, oh my God, we really need to move. We need to move out. And I'm like, all I see are threes around you. I'm like, I feel like you're going to move in March and you're going to see lots of threes. And we talk all the time. And so it didn't end up happening for them last March, but this March they're moving, and one of them's turning 33. They're seeing threes everywhere. And they were like, Jess, you were just a year out. And I was like, damn it. And I'm like, what the hell? And then they're like, but you know what? If you had have told us that it was going to be a whole other year before we moved, we wouldn't have even got through that year. We would have been like, you know, time of death on us, like we are not coping kind of thing. So they needed to have that hope that it was coming for them, but it still happened the way it was supposed to, like the threes and the March and all that kind of stuff. But the timeline shifted for whatever reason. And they're like, thank God you told us that in that moment, but it's still happening the way you said, just this year instead of last year.
Yeah.
You know what? It's the third of the third right now. Three,
Oh, there
three.
we go. Yay, you're moving out of the UK.
All the
Woohoo.
threes. That's so
Yeah.
funny.
So your friend, they're moving back? They're
No,
moving.
they're moving house.
Sorry, I was going to
So
say they're moving back.
yeah, they've been trying for a long time to find something that's suitable for them. And, you know, they had a bit of a hard road last year and now everything's starting to flow for them, all the abundance, all the things. But I think in that moment, Spirit told them what they needed to hear so that they could keep moving forward and have hope that change was coming. But they just sort of they needed that hope. But yeah, I still claim it. I'm like, I was still dead on. I was just a year out. Whatever. But it's so nice to feel when people
and it's
get what they want.
3-3 today.
So weird. And it's so weird I'm telling that story
Yeah,
with all
for
the
sure.
threes. It's hilarious. Anyway, before we go, I would love to tell people how they can connect with you, and then we'll have Jade's weird questions for you. So how can people connect with you?
Yes. Perfect. So I'm usually on Instagram. Janika Galloway is my handle. I also love doing YouTube videos, and actually this is probably going to be the space where I'm most often in. So YouTube, Janika Galloway as well. And yeah, I just kind of post about all the weird and funky things I do and some of the insights that I get. And then yeah, that's probably the best spot to find me online.
Awesome. I love that. Okay. And I'll put all those details in the show notes so people can find you as well. All right. Your weird questions from Jade. Your first one is rubber dub dub. Why three men in the tub?
Oh, well, you need one. Oh, this is where my brain goes. Literally, I was like, well, you need one to wash the front, you need one to wash the back.
What's the one in the middle doing? Just chilling.
That's the one that's getting washed.
I love that. Okay. What does the color white taste like?
Rainbow. Multicolor. Like one of those
Oh.
rainbow lollipop. Like, remember those rainbow paddle pops?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, I like that. See, that's outside the box. All right. Last question. Why do you build me up, Buttercup, just to let me down?
Oh, because it was part of my soul contract to do so.
How funny. Thank you so much for being here. It has been so lovely to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had the most fun, and those questions at the end, like that's how my brain works 24/7. So thanks. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.